Welcome back, aliens. My name is Navin Reddy, and in this video we'll try to create an application, basically a CRUD application in Node.js. See, whenever you want to build an application, it might be a desktop application, it might be a web application, you need to store your data somewhere. And that's why we build software, right? That's why we build app to work with the data. Now, where you will store this data? Of course, we have multiple options. You can store this data in a notepad file, or we can say txt file, right? Or we can store this data in doc format. We can store this data in database, or maybe we can store this data on the network somewhere. I'm not sure where. But then we can have multiple type of storage. You will be saying, hey, can't we store the data in a variable? We can. The only problem is once you restart the application, you will lose all your data which is there in the variables. So it's better to store data in some permanent storage. It might be a text file, it might be a database. And when you say database, of course, we have multiple options here. Nowadays, we can use, of course, we can also use RDBMS, which is relational database system. And we can also use NoSQL databases. Now, example for NoSQL database is MongoDB. So you can use that, or if you want, you can also use DynamoDB. There are different options available. But in this video, we are going to build a simple web application where we'll try to save our data in the database, and we are going to use MongoDB. Okay, so we are sure now we are going to build a web application, and not exactly a web application, but we'll be building REST APIs, because I don't want to design a web page using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That's something I don't want to focus on this video. So if we talk about the main stack, out of which we are going to focus on MEN. So we'll be using MongoDB, we'll be using Node.js because that's our runtime, and then we'll be using Express.js as our web framework. So we are not going to focus on Angular. So I will build the APIs, and then if you know Angular, if you know React, if you know Vue.js, that's your choice. In fact, you can also use Android, iOS as a client. It doesn't matter. So you can build that and you can access the APIs which we are building in this video. Okay, now first of all, what exactly we are going to do? Not big, we are working with aliens. So if you're not sure what aliens means in this channel is, whenever, all the programmers for me, or all the people who are working in the IT industry, I refer them as aliens because we don't live in real world, we live in virtual world, because that's where we create everything. And someone who don't belong to a real world, we call it as alien, right? So, okay, so let's say aliens, and if you're not comfortable with this word alien, imagine programmer. Okay, so I'm talking about programmers or a tech professional. Okay, so I'm going to create an application in which I'll be storing data about an alien. So if you're watching this video, that means you are into tech world or you are coming into tech world. So for me, you are an alien, right? So I want to store data about you. So I want to store your name. I want to store which technology you're learning on this channel, maybe Python, maybe Django, Java. So we have huge amount of technologies available on this platform, right? So I want to know which technology you are learning currently, and I also want to know, have you subscribed the channel? So if you have not done yet, so hit that red button there. So I want to know your status, because if you're watching this video, there's a chance that you have not subscribed to the channel. So in that case, it will say either true or false. So that's the status. If it is true, that means you are the subscriber. If it is false, that means you're not a subscriber. So by default, whoever visits this channel, by default, they are not a subscriber, right? False. But then we want to make it true. So your name, tech, and sub. So I want to store this in a database, which will be in MongoDB. And from where you will send this request, of course, you can use a web browser. So you can use a web browser, using which you can send data from the client to the server, or you can fetch data. See, when you talk about REST APIs, it has multiple methods to work with. So REST API basically uses HTTP, and then you can use multiple methods, right? You can use GET to fetch data, you can use POST to send data, you can use PUT or patch. So we are going to use patch because we'll be doing small changes, not major. So difference between PUT and patch is both are used for the updates. It's just that when you want to replace a huge amount of chunk, then you will be using PUT. But if you want to make a minor changes, patch makes sense. And then we'll also be using delete, which is to delete data. Now, if you want to use all these methods of HTTP when you're building a REST API, your browser by default supports only get and post, right? So whenever you send a request, example, if I go to my browser, okay, so when you search for Telusko, see the address bar there. So in the address bar, what you're doing is you're saying google.com, and then you are passing a search query. So this is a GET request because you're fetching data from the server, right? So that's how you fetch data. But then if you want to submit data, what if you're filling a form and then if you want to submit data, in that case you'll be using a post request. But then by default, patch and delete is not available in your browser. So in that case, what we can do is we will be using a special client, a REST client. There are different options available, but then I'll be using Postman in this video. So Postman is a very special application using which you can test your REST APIs. So that's how it looks. So if you want to send a GET request, you will say GET request, and then you will enter the URL here. If you want to use a POST request, you will be saying POST, and you will use a URL. And we also have an option of patch, we have an option for delete, and of course other methods as well. If you want to pass the data, example, if you're saying POST request, and if you want to send data from client to the server, we have to send that data using body. So that's how so in this raw, you will be entering your JSON format or JSON data, and then you can say send, it will go to the server. Hey, but for that you need a URL, right? So basically we need endpoints. So one endpoint for GET request, one endpoint for POST request, one endpoint for patch and delete. So when you say GET, you might want to fetch all the aliens from database, or maybe you want to fetch only one. When you say POST, you want to post only one alien at a time. Patch will also update one alien, delete will also delete one alien. So GET, we need two requests, one for fetching a particular alien, one alien, and we can also fetch all the aliens. So that's what we want to do. Now since it's a long video, so we have to first make sure that what tools we are going to use so that you will be on the right track. Okay, what else we need? We need one more thing here, which is the database, right? We have not talked about database yet. So we are going to use MongoDB. So you have to make sure in your machine, so you have a choice. You can install MongoDB on your machine, or you can have a cloud MongoDB Atlas, which is, that's your choice. I will be using a standalone setup for MongoDB. So in this machine, I do have MongoDB. So if you don't have, please install. It's very easy. Just go to Google, search for MongoDB, download. It will give you some basic steps, say next, and your job is done. The only thing you have to verify is when you're downloading MongoDB, it will give you an option of downloading the MongoDB Compass as well. So make sure that you checkmark it so that it will also give you a graphical tool to visualize your MongoDB. Okay, so that's a thing. And yeah, one more thing, last thing for sure. We also need a web framework, right? So whenever you build a website or web application, it's good to use a web framework because it will give you some existing features. You can simply use them. It's easy to maintain. It is easy to, whenever you use a framework, it is easy to maintain your code, easy to understand it, and it will simplify your process, of course. So we are going to use Express as our web framework. So basically we have MongoDB database, we have Express.js as your framework, and Node.js as your runtime. So without any ado, let's get started. So you need Node.js in your system, so make sure that you have Node.js. And if you don't know how to install Node.js, you can watch the previous videos where we have talked about how to work with Node.js, how to work with Express. We have not talked about MongoDB, but you'll understand that in this video. And then we also need a software where you will edit or where you will write a code. So we are going to use VS Code as our editor. Of course, you can prefer whatever editor you like, but I'm going to use VS Code. So in your system, you need to have a folder. So you can get a folder called CRUD.js. So I have that. So in my C drive, in users folder, in the Telusko folder, I have this folder called as CRUD.js. I know you can. We can have our own frameworks, right? So nowadays we have written so many frameworks on JavaScript. So we are not creating a framework, but we can have any folder name. So CRUD.js, that's a folder name. Open that in VS Code. How do you open that? So if you get a different prompt, so it will give you an option of open folder, go to the path, select that folder, and you can open it. Now once you got your folder open, you can see we have CRUD.js here. let's get started. So let me close this welcome. So what things we need is, to start with, we have to open the terminal. So that's our terminal. If you have PowerShell, you can switch back to CMD by choosing this option. So once you are in this terminal, which is your command prompt, I want to initiate this project. I want to start this project. Because see, in this project, this is not a very simple application. We are using multiple tools, right? We are working with Express, MongoDB. We are also going to use Mongoose, which is a tool for MongoDB. And to use that, you have to install packages. And then if you have those packages in your machine, what if you want to give this project to someone else? Now they have to manually do all the installation. If you don't want to do that, we can use a very special file. Now since we are using Node.js, since we are using NPM, let's use its feature, right? So we can have all this data in a file called package.json, which will have all the information. And to get that, we'll say npm init. That's how you initiate your npm. It will ask you for some basic values, because package.json will have a lot of metadata about your project. So we can have, so it will ask you for the package name. I will say whatever by default is there. You can simply say enter, enter, enter. It will give you all default options like version number. Then it will entry point, what file you want to start. So I don't want to start index.js. I want to start app.js. That's my file name, which we are going to create. What else? Test command, I don't want to enter now. Git repository. So wherever you want to host your project or wherever you want to keep your codes, source code. Then if you want to make it search friendly, some keywords, you want to mention the author name, I will say Naveen at the Telusko. And the license, what license I want here, MIT license. So I will go for ISC, which is the default one. And that's it. Anything else? No, all data is perfect. Say yes, yes. So I got my package.json, which has all this information. That's my package name. That's the version, the basic version. Of course, you can edit it or you can update it in future. That's my main app.js, which we have not created yet. That's the first script it will run, author name and license. As of now, I don't need this, or maybe I will keep it open. See, as I mentioned, we want to have some packages, right? So let's get started with that packages at the start itself. So let's install Express. Now, how do you install Express? So you have to say npm install Express. You can also mention the version number by saying @ and version number. But just to keep it simple, let's go with the latest version. Not a recommended way when you're deploying this project on prod servers, but it will work in this machine. Okay, so Express is done. So the moment you install a package, you can verify your package.json. There's a change there. And the change is, we got a dependency, which is Express, and this is a version number. Okay, so once you got your Express, the next thing we need is MongoDB. So let's install that as well. So instead of using Express, I'll be saying MongoDB install, and we got MongoDB as well. We also need Mongoose. So let's come back here and say Mongoose, enter, and we got Mongoose. So we got these three. Okay, so our job is done, right? Okay, just one last package. The thing is, when you are working on this web application, of course, while developing the project, you will be making a lot of changes, right? And as a developer, what we do is, every time you make a small change and you want to see that on the server, you need to restart the server, right? So that's the thing. Every time you make small change, you have to restart the server. If you don't want to manually do that by yourself, we have a very special file, which is a package called NodeMon. So we'll also install NodeMon, so that if you make a small change, just say save, it will automatically restart your server. Okay, so it's that simple. Let's install NodeMon. Now the only thing is, when you say install NodeMon, it will install that in the dependencies. It will add one more dependency here. So you will say, hey, what's wrong with that? The thing is, all these dependencies goes into the production server. So when you deploy your project on the prod server, it will download all these dependencies, and NodeMon will also be there. But then we are using NodeMon only for the development purpose, right? Once it is in prod server, you will not restart your server, and in fact, you will not make any changes on the prod server. So why do we need NodeMon on the prod server? So in that case, you can mention, hey npm, I don't want this nodemon to be there on the prod server. I want it only for the development purpose. In that case, you can say save. So save is by default there when you execute any command, but by default it is prod. But we don't want to make it prod. We want to make it dev, which is development environment. Say enter. So it will install nodemon. It might take some time, but look at the dependency. Nodemon is getting installed as a separate dependency in dev environment. Okay, that's done. Now let's continue. Okay, there's one more thing is, now since we are running our project with nodemon, instead of using a test script, what we are going to do is we'll specify start. We'll specify the start script. I want to use nodemon to run the project, so I will say script. And here I will say nodemon, you have to run app.js. So every time I start this project with nodemon, it will run app.js. That's what we wanted. I think we are done with this file, package.json. All is done. Let's close this. We are not going to use this now, so let's close it. Okay, so let's start the actual development. And for that, there's one more thing I wanted to show, which is node modules. So whatever modules you have installed, your Express.js, your MongoDB, Mongoose, everything is available here. But hold on, we have installed only 4 packages, right? Why we got all? See, it's just that for your project, if Express is a dependency, then for Express, these are the dependencies. So let's get a file. I want to write a code in app.js, which is my main file. So what we are going to do here? Now in this, we have to see, first of all, you have to send a request from the client, which will send a request for get, post. Now how a client will send a request? So basically, client has to use a URL. So which URL I'm talking about? So basically, it will use http://localhost port number, which is 9000. So we are going to use 9000 port number. You can choose any available port number which you like, but I'll be using 9000 here. And then, so once you say 9000, it should give nothing. I don't want anything to be as a home request. But then after 9000, I want to specify, hey, I want aliens. Now, if this is a GET request, so let's also mention the GET request. If this is, if this is a GET request, in that case, I want to fetch all the aliens from database. Okay, that's one. But what if I want to mention a particular alien? I don't want all. So in that case, I can mention the ID as well. So I can mention ID here. So I can specify the ID. So that's a GET request. It will give you only one alien. Now we can also have a post request. So I can say aliens, but then this time I will be sending a post request where I will send data from client to the server, which server is going to store on the server in the database. And then likewise we'll also use patch delete. It's just that when you say post, you have to say aliens, but when you say patch and delete, you have to mention one more thing. Let me just paste it. Let's say this is patch, but we'll also mention the ID in this case. So you have to mention the ID as well, and for delete as well, you have to mention the ID. Okay, so that's what we want to do, right? And we'll be filing this query in Postman. So let me just try this. I will just copy this and go back to Postman. Let me send a GET request. Let's say send. And you can see it says loading, which is trying to load the server, but unfortunately we don't have a server running on this URL, and that's why we got this error, which is cannot get any response. Okay, that's bad. So let's head back to our VS Code. So let's use it. So first of all, we need Express. So let's get that Express here. So I will say const. So I will say const Express. So I want the Express to be used in this machine. So I will say const Express require, and in this bracket I will mention what you need. So I require Express package in this project or in this app. What else? I also need Mongoose. So I will say Mongoose equal to require Mongoose. And then I want to start the Express framework. So the way you can start or initialize the Express framework is by saying const app equal to Express. Now that's how you start your Express. Okay, so once you have done with this step, it's time to connect your application with database. We need database, right? And I do have MongoDB in this machine, so it should work. But how will you verify that? And for that, you have to say, let's open one more command prompt and let's run MongoDB, a MongoDB server. The way you can do that is by saying MongoD. So once you have installed MongoDB, maybe you have to also set the path in the path variables. If you don't know how to do that, just search online. Okay, it is giving me an error. So let me verify my environment variable if I have properly done this setup. Oh, I don't have MongoDB path here. Let me add one. Okay, so that's the path of my MongoDB. I will just go back to Bean. This is where I have my MongoDB server. You can see that we have MongoD here. So I will just copy this path, go back to my environment variable and say new. Okay. Now the only thing is, I guess I need to open the command prompt once again. And let's try MongoD now. Okay, maybe I have to restart my VS Code. Let me just do that. Okay, so I got my VS Code started. Let me just try that MongoD once again. Okay, now it is working. Can you see that? It says MongoDB is working. That's great. So MongoDB is running behind the scene. Let's head back to our terminal 1, or the command prompt 1. Now this is where I want to connect with database Mongoose. So the way you can do that is by saying mongoose.connect. That's the function you have to use. And in this function, you have to mention the URL of your database. So you can mention that in a variable. So I will just have that in a variable URL. So I will say const URL equal to, and let me say MongoDB. So your Express framework or your Node.js is connecting to the MongoDB, and MongoDB will be connecting with your database. Okay, which database? So let me have a database name as alien DBX or database. So let's say that alien DBX, and this might be available on some other machine, right? So in that case, you will also mention the IP address of that machine. So I will say localhost because it's in the same machine for this example, but might be in your machine you want to have it in somewhere else. That's your choice, right? Okay, this should work. Why there's an error? Oh, I missed the equal sign. How bad. Okay, so you have to mention the URL here, but then it might give you a warning. Okay, so because some of the functions or features are deprecated, so it might give you a warning. So if you want to avoid that warning, you can say use new user parser, and you will say yes, I want to use new user parser. True. Just to avoid the warning, okay? And once you have done this, you need to have that connection holder, okay? So see, this will connect, but then you want that handle with you, right? How will you get the handle? So in that case, you can say const con, which is a connection object. You will say mongoose dot connection. So you will get the hold on connection now. So you can do whatever you want with this con now. Okay, so which is directly connected with database. But it might take some time, right? It might take some time for the connection. So Node.js will say, hey, someone else, hey, just try to connect. And once you have connected with the database, let me know. But how it will let you know? So it's very simple. So you have to say on. There's an event, it will fire. So once you are connected with the database, it will fire an event. So you have to say on. Which event? It might be error event, it might be closed event, it might be open event. So I want to focus more on the open event. So whenever it's open, I want to execute a function, a callback function basically. And this callback function will simply print a statement. So we'll say console.log. I want to print something. What I want to print? I want to print connected. That's it. Simple sentence, right? Connected. Okay, but will this work? I just want to test till now. I don't want to go ahead with anything. Let me just try this part. But how will you run this? How will you run this code, right? That's very important. So to run this code, you will say nodemon. So you have to say nodemon run. So that's the command, and then you have to say start. I know we have two words here which look similar, but then this is actual command nodemon run. The start is something which you have mentioned in the package.json. Can you see that? We have start here. Okay, so this should work. Okay, it says nodemon run start is not there. So I guess you have to install nodemon as a global package. So you have to use -g to install globally. Let's see if that is the issue. Let's start. Okay, done. So that was the issue. You have to install nodemon globally. So that's done. Okay, so you can see that once you start this server, it says connected. So this is what we wanted, right? So this is getting connected with the database. That's what we wanted. Let's get back here. And now I want to have some connections. And now it's time to get the access from the client. You can see if you go back to your Postman and if you say send request, it is still not working. You know why? Because your server is not ready to accept the client request. And for that you have to create functions which will accept your request. And for that you have to create routers. Okay, now what router I'm talking about? See, in your project you'll be having multiple services, right? Multiple entities. Like in this case we are using aliens. And for the aliens we have a lot of different type of requests, get request, post request. So for different requests we have different URL, and for different URL we have different handlers. And to achieve that, you know, for different URL we have different handlers. We call it as routers or routing. So what we can do is we can do that here itself in the app.js, but it will make it more complex. So what we can do is we can create a separate folder here, and we can name it as routers. So all the routing will be done in this folder. Now in this case we only have one, so not an issue, but might be you have multiple entities. So we got router, and in this router I want to create a file for routing, right? So and of course you can name it anything, but then it makes sense to have the entity name. So let me say aliens.js. If you have multiple entities, like let's say laptops, if you have entities like let's say books, in that case you will have laptops.js, books.js, and their routing will be done in that particular file. So let's do the routing. Now for routing, of course you also need express here as well, so we can just copy paste the express statement here. So I want this one, get back here and paste. So we got express, and once you got express, so we also need a router from express. So I will say const router equal to, so using this express object I can say express.router, basically for routing purpose. Now once you got this router, now you can specify all the URLs with the handlers. Now what I'm talking about is we can say router dot. So for different requests we have get request, we have post request. So you can see initially we'll start with get request, so I will say get. Now this get request will be for what? So this will be for alien, right? So I can say slash. But why slash? We wanted alien, right? See, that's the thing you have to mention in the app.js. Whenever you get request for aliens, you have to execute this file. Whenever you get request for books, so what I'm saying is, if you go back to your other editor, so let's say you are sending a get request, but this time for books. Now this is different, right? This will be in a different JavaScript file, which is books.js. So this will be slash because we are working with aliens, and then you have to route it here. You have to mention, hey, whenever you get request for aliens, this is a file you have to go to. And the way you can do that is by mentioning a middleware. Oh, we are missing one more thing. Even if you start a server, you need to also listen to the server, right? That's how you start it. So we will be listening to the port number 9000. And I also want to mention one more thing. Can you see that once I say saved, it has restarted the server? So that's awesome. That's the power of NodeMod. Okay, so let me say function. I also want to have a callback just to know that the server is running, and I will say server started. You know what's the fun part about JavaScript? It has a concept as big arrow, or you say lambda. So what we can do is, if you know you have a function, and if you don't have a name for it, why do you even write function? You can remove that and you can put a big arrow here. That works and it looks cool, right? So we'll be using this syntax throughout this video. So as a Java developer, we received this one in 1.8. Okay, so this is done. Server started, but then yeah, so we wanted to have that routing, right? And for that, what we can do is we can create a router here. So here I will say const, I want to use alien router for all the routing purpose, equal to. And for that you have to import this particular module which we have created. So the module name we have is aliens.js. So I will say .routes/aliens. So that's the file name, right? So we have routers. Oh, these routers. Yes, it should be routes, right? Why routers? Yeah, so routes.aliens. And once you say that, you have to mention the URL as well, right? So you have to say app.use, you have to add a middleware, and here you will say for all the aliens request, you have to send the request to alien router. What is alien router? Our alien router here, it is your aliens file, which is aliens.js. So request comes to this file, and this file will forward that request to aliens.js. Okay, so this is where you will specify now. Whenever you get a request for aliens, just aliens, not ID, in that case you will execute this function. So let me just use a big arrow here. And here I will say console.log, and I will print get request. Okay, just to verify, okay. So I will say save, but it says app is crashed. What went wrong? Cannot find module with this name. Oh yeah, it's at the same folder. Okay, so restart this server. I hope it will run. It will work now. Okay, now we got a different error. It says router requires a middleware function, not an object. Okay, so what is missing is you have to also export this module, right? I guess that's the issue. So I will say module.export. So you have to export this module, which is router, so that it will be accessible in the app.js. So let's get back to app and let's say save both the files. Let's see the command prompt. Yeah, it started. So that was the issue. So you have to also make sure that you export this router so that this is accessible here. Okay, now once your server started, we can go back to our Postman just to verify if this is working. Says send request. Okay, it is still saying loading, but that's fine. Let's go back to the console. Can you see that in console we got get request? Now why we got in console? Because we are saying console.log. If we don't want to do that in console.log, we should be doing that in a request object. I mean response object. So what we can do is we can get the hold on request and response object here, so that we can say response.send the same message, get request. Okay, this should work. Let's go back to our Postman and just send. Can you see that? We got the answer here. I don't know why Postman is showing all this text so small. But you got it, right? We got get request. Okay, that's fun, but we don't want to send get request, right? We want to fetch data from database. Now in that case, let me just do it quickly, what we will do. Now first of all, whenever you work with database, you need to make sure that you don't send a normal request, you send a async request. So we have this concept of async await. So whatever request you send, it should be a async request, so that it will not block your process. And we'll try to execute this in case there is an error. We have to catch it in an error object. We'll say error. So that's how try catch works. And we'll send. So in case of error, we'll send. Of course, we can make it simple. We can send status code, but that we will do in some other video. Let's send the error itself. But what if there's no error? In that case, you will fetch all the aliens from database and you will send it. But how will you do that? So let's save all the aliens in an alien object. Now let's fetch data. How will you do that? See, basically whenever you say, we have this concept of MVC, which is Model View Controller. Now when you say Model View Controller, we are basically separating the concerns. See, every website will have three things. It should have a good view, a good UI basically, that's a view. It should have a database object, the data model, right, where you will store data, which is your model. And then it will also have a controller which will control all the routing for you. So example, for different entities, we'll be having different models. In this case, the entity which we are going to work is alien. So alien should have its own model. So it's better to have that in a separate folder. So what we can do is here we can create a separate folder, models, not in routers but inside the CRUD. Yeah, so inside models, let's create a file which is alien.js. So it will be a singular because it represents one particular alien. Now this will have a very simple thing, which is the schema for your database. Of course, right, if you are coming from RDBMS, I'm talking about the table structure. Now even if you say NoSQL, it should follow some structure, right? Yes, it is flexible to have any type of structure you want, but you need basic structure here. And the way you can achieve that basic structure is by saying Mongoose equal to require, and here you can say Mongoose. So we got access to Mongoose, And then let's create a schema. How do we do that? So you have to say alien schema. We are creating a schema here equal to. Now to create a schema, you have to say new. We require schema from Mongoose, and that's why it is better to use Mongoose than vanilla MongoDB, MongoDB script. Okay, so let's get our schema here. So what we need in this, and we have discussed about this in other editor, right? So basically we need, okay, where's that? We need name, tech, and subscription status, right? Okay, so let's get that. So basically we need name. Name will have certain properties. So name should have a type. So name should be of type string. Then is it required? Is it compulsory field? Yes. In this case, it's a compulsory field which I want. So I will say true. And then I also need tech information. So I will say type is of type string. And then is it required? Yes. And then we need one more, which is this subscription status, right? So I will say, so make sure that you have your subscribing channel so that you can say true here. And I want it to be Boolean because I want true or false. Is it required? Yes, I want all the fields. And then one more thing, what if, I mean, by default it should be false, right? Because if you're visiting for the first time to this channel, your subscription status will be false. So let's make it false. So that's our schema, right? So this is how you connect with a database. So now you're saying, hey MongoDB or hey Mongoose, I want a database with this structure in which you will be having this schema. So basically it uses the concept of collections and documents. So every time you create a new alien, it will be one document. So if you have 5 viewers, 5 aliens, that will be 5 documents belongs to one collection. So for people who are coming from RDBMS, imagine your tables as collections and documents as rows, your tuples basically. Now go back here. Now I want to get the handle of that schema in this file. Otherwise it cannot work. Now how will you get the handle of that schema? So what you can do is you can come back here and you can say const I want alien access, and I will say require. In this you can mention the alien JavaScript file, which is this alien, which is that, yeah, this one. But then this belongs to a separate folder, right? So you can say // it belongs to models/aliens. Okay, so here what I will do is I will say alien dot. Okay, so there's a find function, but then I want it to be a asynchronous request, right? It should return a callback. I mean, it should return a async function. So in that case, you can say await. So you are waiting for this find to come back, and then it will execute the things for you. But once you find your data which is coming from the database, you will simply return it to the client. Now in that case, what type of data you want to return? So when you say response.send, it will send in a normal text format or HTML. I want it to be in a JSON format. So you will say JSON aliens. So now you are returning data in a JSON format. Okay, will this work? Let's try. Let's go back to our Postman and say send. So we got data which is alien find is not a function. Oh, I missed one more thing. So in this alien.js, you need to export your alien schema, right? So I don't know why I'm always missing this part. So this module.exports, I want to export that alien schema. So I will say mongoose.model. So it has a special way of doing that. So you have to say model, and in this you have to say alien. Of course, you can have any name, doesn't matter. Let's say alien schema. So we are exporting alien schema now. So that is getting holded here in this alien. Let's try once again, send, and it worked. Can you see that? We got the output. Now the only problem is the output is blank. You know why? Because we don't have any alien in database yet. For that, you need to create aliens, right? You have to create some data in the database. How will you do that? And the way you can do that is by using a post request. So what you can do is you can create one more router here. For post request, I will say post, and this will be of course you will be saying aliens, you will not be saying any ID, and this will also be a async request, which will accept request and response. And here I want to create an object for storing data, right? See, whatever data you are sending from a client, now from a client side you have to send data, okay? Now that's tricky, I know, but you have to send data from a client side. How will you do that? So let's go back to Postman again, and this time you will send a post request for the same URL, but in the body you have to mention your JSON data. So you have to mention I'm sending a name is Naveen, then I'm sending a tag. So let's say tag in this case is Node.js. And then one more thing, subscription, but we can keep it blank, right? So it should give me default values. So when I say send, it should send us it should send a request. But if you can see, if I say send, we got an error which says cannot post because we don't have that post request yet. So that's how you send data, right? So let's go back to our VS Code to create that. So we have the post request here. So in the post request, let's create an object which will accept all the values. So we'll say constant alien and we'll say new alien. So that's how we get the object. And in this object, let's assign all the values. So I will say name. Name is coming from the request object. So I will say request dot body dot name. That's how you fetch the values. Tag colon request dot body dot tag. So we got tag as well. And subscription status, which is sub colon, maybe you are sending subscription status, so we'll say body dot sub. Okay, so once you got your object, now this object will have all the information which you are sending from a client side, and we just have to save that in database. So of course we can try to save it. So we'll say try catch will have the error object, and in this error I will say response dot send error. That's it, nothing much. And in this try block, I will try to save this data. But how? It's very simple. You will say alien dot save. It has a save method. But then this has to be a await one, async await. And it also returns the data from our database. So maybe we can store that in A1. And the same data will send it to client, so that client should see something with what is happening in the server. So I will say JSON. Let's send A1. This should work. Let's say save. Any error on the console? Yes, there's an error. Oh, I missed the fat arrow. Okay, so it says server started. There should not be another error now. Let's click on send. It says sending. But why is it taking so much time? It says there's a permission issue. Okay, so let's see where the problem is. Now it says it cannot read a property name. So the issue is maybe it is not able to read the JSON property which we are sending, right? So you have to tell your Express framework, hey, I want to use JSON here. Now how will you do that? So what you can do is here before the router you can say you have to add one more middleware. You can say app.use. So this is what we are doing in app.js, the main file. And we are saying, hey, I want to use the Express framework. So I will say so I want to use JSON format here. And yeah, it should work now. Let's restart the server. It's done, restart it, done. Let's go back to our Postman. I hope this time it will work. Click on send. Go back. You can see that we got the response. So if you send the response page, response side, we got a response, we got name, the technology. Subscription by default is false because we have mentioned false, and it also generates the ID, right? So it is working. Okay, let's create one more so that we can have multiple users. So we can say, let's say Kiran, and Kiran is currently working on blockchain. Now click on send. So we got Kiran as well. That's great. We can have one more. Let's say Harsh, and Harsh is working on, let's say, Java. And click on send. So we got 3 aliens working on different technology, right? But now if I want to fetch all the aliens, will that work? So I will say get request, click on send. Can you see that? We got all the aliens here. But you can see we got 3 aliens. We got Naveen, Kiran and Harsh. We got their IDs as well. But what if I want to fetch a particular alien, not all? So what we can do is after this aliens, I can specify a particular ID. So let's say I want to fetch Kiran. So in that case, I can just copy this and paste. So I want this ID, but unfortunately you can see we don't have any get request which accepts only one alien. So in that case, what we can do is we can go to our aliens.js and we can add one more method for one particular alien, right? So I'm lazy to do that, so I will just copy paste the get request here. And the changes is this time it will also pass the ID. So in that case, if you want to accept the ID, now since this is dynamic, so you can say :ID, and you can use that here when you say find. But we don't want to find all aliens, we want to find one, right? So in that case, you can say find by ID, but which ID? So you will say request.params.id. Now since we are getting ID in a URL, so you will say params, not body, and it should work. Let's try. So let's go back. Okay, we're not sending aliens, we're sending one alien, so we can just make it single alien there. Go back and send. Okay, so that we got Kiran. Now if you change this ID, you will get that particular alien. But what if you pass an ID, it's not there? You can see we got null. So that's your choice. Do you want to send null or do you want to send any error message? So you can do that in this if else in this code. So you can just add, if you find an alien, return it, otherwise you can print an error. Okay, so we have done with get, post, but now I want to work with patch. Now how will patch works? See, when you say patch and delete, there is one thing common, right? So before patching, before deleting, because see, in the URL, what you will do is, in the Postman URL, what you are going to do is, you will say, hey, I want to change something for which alien. So let me change something for Kiran. So Kiran is subscribing the channel. So let me fetch all the aliens first. So that's the ID of Kiran. So now I will do a patch request for Kiran. So I have to also mention the ID of Kiran. But in this case, I will do some changes. I don't want to change all this data. I just want to change one thing of, which is subscription. So I want to make the subscription as true. That's it. So when I send this request, it should change that. Okay, in that case, I'm passing an ID. So with that ID, first I have to fetch a particular alien from database, and then I can make a changes, right? So in that case, I will say router.patch. You know what? Delete is something you will do as an assignment. It's a very big video, right? I will give you a hint, but you can try it out. So we'll say async request and response. Okay, here what I will do is I will try to delete that particular alien, or not delete, I will try to patch it. In case of error response, I will say response.send. Now this is the best practice I'm talking about. This is not a good way of returning error. You should send the status and what went wrong. But till this point it works, so let's continue with that. So in this patch, what we can do is first we have to fetch a particular alien, right? For which alien you want to change the data. So what I can do is I can say const alien equal to await alien dot find by ID, and you have to mention that ID here. You will say request dot params. That's the same thing we have done for the get request, right? Params dot ID. Now once you got that ID, you will simply change the alien, right? So you will say alien dot, you will change the sub status to the new status, which is request dot body dot sub, and then once you have done that, you have to save that particular alien. So we'll say const a1 because I also want to get the hold on it. Await alien dot save, and let's send the response. So we'll say res.json. I'm sending a1. That's it. That's how you patch. Okay, but there are some issues with this patch. What if the alien which you are mentioning is not there in database? So you have to send the response by saying, hey, alien not found. What if user don't want to send, don't want to change subscription, they want to change the tag? In that case, you have to check what is a change, right? So you have to accept all the values, or you have to check what value you got in the JSON. Is it the subscription? Is it the tag? And according to that, you have to change. But again, that is a complex task. It will increase the time, it will increase the number of lines. So let's keep it with sub as of now. just to understand the code. And go back to your Postman. I hope this will work. Click on send. Okay, something happened. You can see in the response it says true. How do you verify? Send request for all the aliens. We got 3 aliens here. We got true for Kiran, subscribed. Other 2 users are not subscribed yet. And make sure that you also subscribe the channel. Again, I know I'm saying this a lot of time. Now, once we have done that, it's time. Okay, so I'm making this video in one go, so I'm a bit tired. Last part, delete. You can do it by yourself. So you have to create one more method, one more function, which is for delete. The only change is instead of saying find by ID, you have to say remove. That's it. Or not find by ID. Instead of saying save, you have to say remove. Okay. So try it out, and if you are getting error, Google it, and that's how you learn, right? So that's it from this video. Let me just do a quick recap what we have done. So in this project, we are using multiple packages. We are using Express, MongoDB, Mongoose, and Nodman for the changes. Okay, so this is something wrong. We don't want Go, or we don't want G, because that was a mistake. And in app.js, we are mentioning we are using Express Mongoose. This is our database, which is AlienDB. In fact, if you want to see this in your Compass, you can do that. You can say MongoDB Compass community. You can open that. It might take some time to initialize. By the time, you can just do a recap. So if we want Express, we are connecting with database. We want to use JSON, and we have created this routing table. So in this routing, not table, but routing module, in this we are mentioning for all the aliens requests for one particular alien, post request and patch, delete, you can do it by yourself. And this is our schema. So I will try to push this project on GitHub, and I will share the link with you in the description area. And so yeah, come back here in the code. So that's our schema, and then we are exporting this schema so that you can use it in the routers, and it works. Let me just go back to Compass. It is open here. So I can say MongoDB : localhost / alien dbx. I hope this will get connected. Yeah, so you can see we got connected. That's our database. That's our collection aliens, and we got 3 aliens here. So you can also explore that with the help of Compass. So that's it from this video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comment section, and do subscribe for further videos. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.